Before Halloween lit the streets with pumpkins and masks, there was a fire burning in the mists of ancient Ireland, a night when the gods walked again among the living. They called it Samhain, the beginning of darkness and the end of the mortal world. The origins of Halloween trace back to the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, pronounced Samhain, celebrated over 2,000 years ago by the Celts in regions that are now Ireland, Britain and northern France. Samhain, which took place from October 31 to November 1st, marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter, known as the dark half of the year. The Celts believed that on this night, the boundary between the world of the living and the world of the dead grew thin, allowing the spirits of the dead, fairies, also known as the Aosi, and other supernatural entities to cross into the mortal realm. This belief was deeply rooted in Celtic mythology, where winter was associated with death, decay, and darkness. During Samhain rituals, people lit large bonfires to ward off evil spirits. They offered sacrifices of crops and animals to appease the Celtic gods and wore animal skins or frightening costumes to disguise themselves from wandering spirits. Imagine ancient Celtic villagers dressed in wild animal hides gathered around blazing fires. The flames symbolized life, warmth, and protection. They believed that on this night, the souls of their ancestors would return from the underworld to visit their families. But not all spirits were benevolent. Mischievous fairies, malevolent beings, and restless ghosts also roamed freely. To protect themselves from these dark forces, the Celts wore terrifying masks, faces resembling horned stags or savage wolves, and sang loudly to frighten away the spirits. They sacrificed seasonal foods, such as wild gourds and root vegetables, and the Druids, the sacred Celtic priests and seers, performed rituals of divination, declaring, "A harsh winter is coming, but the fire of Samhain will keep us safe." Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of both animal and human sacrifices in Irish bogs, signs of what was called the triple death, by wounding, burning, and drowning, rituals once performed for kings or significant figures. Divination was also common during Samhain. Molten lead was poured into water to interpret shapes, or apples and nuts were used in games to predict the future, especially concerning death and marriage. People marked their doorways with animal blood to repel evil spirits and carried torches lit from the sacred fire around their homes for protection. This festival closely resembled other Celtic celebrations, such as Calan Gaeaf in Wales and Calan Goanf in Brittany. In Celtic mythology, the Aosi were seen as the diminished remnants of ancient gods who required appeasement through offerings of food and drink to ensure survival during the harsh winter months. The Celts also believed in the otherworld, a realm where these spirits dwelled. Legends say that on Samhain night, fairies would sometimes kidnap humans and take them to their realm, unless they were pacified with gifts of milk and bread. Thus, what we now know as Halloween began not as a night of costumes and candy, but as a sacred ritual, a moment when the veil between life and death lifted, and humankind stood face to face with the ancient mysteries of nature, spirit, and the unseen world. After the Roman Empire conquered the Celtic lands in the 1st century AD, around 43 AD, the festival of Samhain gradually merged with Roman celebrations. One of these was Feralia, held in late October, a day dedicated to honoring the dead. Another was the festival of Pomona, the Roman goddess of fruit and trees, whose symbol was the apple. As time passed and the Romans expanded their rule across the British Isles, these two traditions blended with Samhain. Feralia brought with it the solemn remembrance of the dead, while Pomona's influence introduced themes of harvest and fertility. The apple, Pomona's sacred fruit, became a powerful symbol not only of life and abundance, but also of immortality and the otherworld in Celtic belief. This connection is likely the origin of the modern Halloween tradition of bobbing for apples, in which participants try to catch floating apples with their Teeth, a remnant of both Roman and Celtic ritual symbolism. The Romans ruled over the Celtic peoples for more than 4 centuries, and their customs intertwined. The great bonfires and spirit-warding rites of Samhain continued, but now infused with Roman elements, especially the commemoration of the dead. Thus, Samhain did not disappear under Roman influence. Instead, it evolved, carrying forward its ancient reverence for the cycles of life, death, and rebirth, while adopting new layers of meaning from the gods of Rome. In the 7th century AD, the Christian Church began the process of Christianizing pagan festivals. In 609 AD, Pope Boniface IV consecrated the Pantheon in Rome to the Virgin Mary and all martyrs, transforming a former temple of Roman gods into a Christian shrine. Later in the 8th century, Pope Gregory III, 731-741, moved the celebration of All Saints' Day to November 1st, deliberately aligning it with the Celtic festival of Samhain in an effort to replace or absorb the old pagan customs. The night before, October 31st, became known as All Hallows' Eve, which over time evolved linguistically into Halloween. This period came to be known as All Hallowtide, from October 31st to November 2nd. All Saints' Day, November 1st, honored all saints and martyrs. All Souls' Day, November 2nd, was dedicated to prayers for the souls of the dead in purgatory. During this time, Christian customs developed to ring church bells for departed souls, light candles to guide them home, and give out soul cakes, small round cakes offered to the poor in exchange for prayers for the deceased. In medieval Ireland and Scotland, these practices evolved into souling. The poor would go door to door, dressed in ragged clothes or simple masks, offering to pray for the souls of the dead in exchange for soul cakes. Children also took part, dressing as spirits, singing songs, and receiving food or coins to appease wandering ghosts. If nothing was given, they would play pranks, a direct ancestor of the modern trick-or-treat tradition. In Scotland, a similar custom called guising emerged. Children disguised themselves in costumes and performed songs, poems, or jokes to earn treats. The disguises were believed to trick evil spirits into leaving them unharmed. During the Middle Ages, masks and costumes became widespread to confuse or ward off ghosts, and the symbolic Dance of Death, Danse Macabre, appeared in church art, depicting skeletons leading the living to their graves, a reminder of mortality and the equality of all in death. During the Reformation, many Protestant regions suppressed these older traditions. But in Catholic areas like Ireland and Scotland, the customs of All Hallowtide and the lingering spirit of Samhain endured, quietly preserving the roots of what would one day become Halloween. Halloween did not become widespread in America until the 19th century, as the Puritans had banned it due to its pagan and superstitious origins. However, with the mass immigration of Irish and Scottish people, especially following the Great Irish Potato Famine, 845-1849, old Celtic traditions such as guising, dressing in costumes, and going door to door for food or gifts crossed the Atlantic and took root in the New World. In America, the practice of carving turnips, used in Ireland and Scotland to ward off spirits as jack-o'-lanterns, evolved into carving pumpkins, which were larger and easier to carve. Their glowing candle-lit faces became an iconic symbol of the holiday. As the Irish and Scottish communities grew, Samhain transformed into Halloween, blending old folklore with the new American culture. It became a night of celebration rather than fear, filled with costumes, games, and communal gatherings. Pumpkins replaced turnips, bonfires became neighborhood parties, and traditional offerings to spirits turned into sharing sweets and candy. By the 1920s, Halloween had become increasingly commercialized in North America. It evolved into a national holiday, with parades, fancy dress parties, and an emphasis on fun rather than superstition. The ancient fairies and spirits of Celtic legend gave way to modern icons, zombies, witches, skeletons, ghosts, and even film characters. The phrase trick or treat first appeared in Canada in the 1920s and spread to the United States by the 1930s, rooted in the older traditions of souling and playful mischief. By the 20th century, Halloween had become largely secular and family-oriented. Haunted houses appeared, first in England around 1915, and later in America by the 1930s, adding a theatrical, entertaining dimension to the celebration. Today, Halloween is one of the most commercial holidays in the United States, marked by costume sales, candy, decorations, and an enduring fascination with the supernatural, a modern echo of Samhain's ancient fires and the mysteries of the otherworld. One of the most famous Halloween legends is the Irish tale of Stingy Jack. According to folklore, Jack the Miser, a drunken trickster, once managed to outwit the devil himself. Jack trapped the devil in a tree and only released him after extracting a promise that his soul would never be taken to hell. However, when Jack eventually died, heaven refused him for his wicked life, and hell rejected him because of the devil's vow. Condemned to wander between worlds, the devil gave Jack a single burning coal, which Jack placed inside a carved turnip to light his way through the eternal darkness. From then on, he became known as Jack of the Lantern, or Jack-o'-lantern, a restless spirit carrying his ghostly light. This legend inspired the modern Jack-o'-lantern tradition. In Ireland and Scotland, people carved turnips and placed candles inside to ward off wandering spirits. When Irish immigrants brought the story to America, they found that pumpkins, native to the New World, were larger and easier to carve, and so the glowing pumpkin lanterns became the hallmark of Halloween. Other symbols of the holiday: black cats associated with witches, skeletons, and the colors black, orange, and purple all trace their origins to pagan mythology, representing death, harvest, and magic. Halloween has evolved from an ancient Celtic festival honoring death and wandering spirits into a modern, global and secular holiday. In some countries like Spain and Italy, Christian traditions such as visiting cemeteries still remain, while in Asia and Australia, the celebration has spread largely through American cultural influence. Yet beneath the glitter and costumes of today's Halloween, the echoes of Samhain still linger. When you carve a pumpkin and put on a costume on the night of October 31st, you're unknowingly reaching back thousands of years to those Celtic bonfires that once marked the fragile boundary between life and death. Halloween is not only a night of fear, but also a story of hope. The hope that the darkness of winter will be overcome by the light of family, memory, and tradition. And perhaps in the chill of the night air, the spirit of Stingy Jack still wanders with his lantern, forever searching, maybe for a soul cake. Fun facts: in ancient Ireland, people ate fruitcakes with hidden charms inside to foretell the future. And in the 19th century, mischievous pranks like soaping windows were common. Today, some Christians replace Halloween with harvest festivals or light nights to distance it from its pagan roots. Ultimately, the history of Halloween reveals how cultures and religions blend and transform over time, turning an ancient ritual of fear into a celebration of connection, memory, and light. Tonight, Halloween may shine bright with laughter and light, but beneath it all, the shadow of Samhain still lingers, a memory of when mankind bargained with the dark, for just one more sunrise. And if you feel a chill in the wind tonight, perhaps the old gods are watching still. If you hear their whisper, like, comment, and subscribe. They might just whisper back,